Hi everyone, Krzysztof the Polish Geek welcomes you to the movie review of The Black Phone 2. And I have to say, when this movie was first announced, I was saying, oh gosh, another sequel to a pretty well done movie, because I really enjoyed the first The Black Phone. In fact, it was one of the very first reviews on this channel. Like, my channel was only in its tiniest infancy when I did a review of the original The Black Phone, and I said back then there was a pretty good thriller. Yeah, because it was a lot more of a thriller than a horror movie, with just some tiny supernatural elements. So, but then as soon as I heard the concept for this, I thought, that the sequel indeed does actually make sense, especially that in the first movie, while there were almost no supernatural elements, like the only supernatural element was that this boy, Finney, kidnapped by a serial killer, was basically guided by the ghosts of the serial killer's former victims. And so this movie basically had the serial killer return in a dream, Freddy Krueger style. Actually, so I thought that, honestly, it does kind of make sense. And I thought it was one of those sequels. It sounds like it does indeed logically tie into the first movie. So I went with an open mind, and I have to say, I ended up really enjoying it. In fact, I might say I actually might have liked it slightly more than I liked the first, The Black Phone, because it very much defies the curse of like pointless, unnecessary sequels, and instead gives you a pretty well done, well told story that very much builds upon the original, while very much giving you something new and fresh. And the first thing I'm gonna say about The Black Phone 2 is that it very much leans far more heavily into a horror territory than the original Black Phone. In fact, I'm gonna say, because I did say it, I think that in my review of The Black Phone, that the movie was actually a lot more of a thriller than a horror, with just few supernatural elements, mostly referring to the ghosts of the grabber's former victims. But The Black Phone 2, on the other hand, very much goes full horror and actually has some a lot more creepy and unsettling moments. Although I'm not gonna be deluding myself that the movie was scary, because to me at least it wasn't all. Again, it was a pretty good movie, and I really enjoyed The Black Phone 2, but the scariness had nothing to do with it, because I just said, to me personally, it very much does suffer from the modern horror curse of not being particularly scary. So, I mean, it certainly did have several creepy and unsettling moments here and there, but then again, I've seen way creepier and way more unsettling moments in other horror movies. But then again, it's pretty subjective of what someone finds scary, because I've seen several people saying that last year's really excellent Nosferatu wasn't particularly scary, even though for me it was actually one of the scariest and most amazing, by the way, horror movies that I ever seen. Like, one of the YouTubers I watch actually said that he didn't find last year's Nosferatu scary at all, but now he very much says that The Black Phone 2 is pretty scary. So I guess it just shows that different people find different things scary. But as I said, to me at least, The Black Phone 2 was not scary at all. So in order to really enjoy this movie, I guess scariness shouldn't be the factor if you want to enjoy this movie, because again, other than several creepy and unsettling moments here and there, it does very much suffer from the modern horror movie curse of not being really scary at all. But what I do love about the movie is that it completely didn't retcon Grabber's death. Quite the opposite. He came back in a way that very much makes sense in a context of the movie, since now he basically returns in the dream sequence of Finney's sister Gwen, Freddy Krueger style. Although, I'll also say this, and yes, the movie does very much now shift focus from Finney to his younger sister Gwen, and now she's the protagonist, with Finney being moved to a supporting protagonist role. And I was kind of worried at first that they're really gonna go down that way, but thankfully not. And it's done in a way that very much honors and respects the original character, while mostly focusing now on a new character who was originally a supporting protagonist. And the true heart of this movie, though, is the family dynamic. I just so much love the chemistry and the brother-sister relationship between Finney and Gwen. Like, this is by far my favorite part of the movie. I just love their family, big brother, little sister relationship and dynamic, and this is, as I said, the true heart of the movie. But I also love the new location, because now, what I also really loved about The Black Phone 2 is the setting and the atmosphere, because while the first The Black Phone took place mostly in the grabber's basement, this time the action is moved to the Christian youth camp somewhere in the mountains of Colorado, and I just love the snowy and wintry atmosphere of the movie. I think that choosing to set the movie during the winter was such an amazing choice, and as I said, I really love the beautiful visuals of the mountains and the Colorado lake. Like, yep, I really loved all that. I mean, again, if you've been watching me for a while, you know I have huge sensitivity to amazing and unique visuals, and so yes. The snowy, wintry mountain atmosphere in Colorado was just excellent and really amazing. And another thing that the movie has done that I completely didn't expect it to do, but really ended up enjoying it, is that we actually learn a lot more of the backstory of the Grabber. Like, again, he was not the type of villain you'd ever be interested particularly in his backstory, because like he was just a serial killer, and it's not like you needed much of his backstory, but leaning heavily more into his backstory was actually quite interesting, especially that the backstory didn't make him sympathetic one bit. If anything, it actually made you hate him even more, actually. So yeah, there was some really interesting and fascinating stuff. So yeah, I really love that they delved far deeper into this Grabber's backstory without making him sympathetic one bit, actually making him even more evil and despicable, actually. So overall, I have to say, The Black Phone 2, I think, is a very worthy follow-up to the original The Black Phone. But that said, I'm really hoping that they're not gonna be making any more of the sequels, because the story now feels fully, and I mean fully complete. There's just no need for sequels. This actually was also one of my major issues with the Halloween horror classics, including Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. That was actually my biggest issue. Like, the fact that those villains are just completely unkillable, and then they just like, the ending reveals they're still alive, and then they keep coming back in the sequels. Like, yeah, that's actually my biggest issue with all those movies. It just feels like, it just feels completely pointless, and it just feels like basically like everything is in vain, because this villain is gonna come back alive sooner or later anyway. So yeah, that's actually my biggest issue with all those horror classics, actually. And the original Halloween movies, like, because they actually planned to kill off Michael Myers forever in the second movie, and then the third Halloween did not have Michael Myers, and they were actually planning to just now start doing basically like Halloween anthology series, with each telling a story about different characters and a different villain. But then the audiences were mad, and instead they wanted Michael Myers back. And I might be one of the few people that thinks that, but I think this original idea of just doing Halloween anthology horror series, I think was a much better idea. By just constantly bringing Michael Myers, completely kills any of the stakes, and basically makes it everything feel like completely pointless. Like I just think that those horror classic villains like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers would be more beneficial if they were actually just killed off permanently and then just do original ideas. But then again, that's might be my personal preference, who knows. But yes, so I hope that The Black Phone doesn't do that. I hope that this is the last movie, and this perfectly wraps up the story. There's just no need for more sequels. The Black Phone was a great thriller. And then The Black Phone 2, as I said, is a very worthy follow-up that very much ups the horror, actually, and leans far more heavily into the supernatural horror elements, while very much building upon the story told and giving you something new and fresh, and fully completes the story. And now it should just be over. There shouldn't be any more movies in the series. I mean, it probably depends how much money the movie makes anyway, but I think that The Black Phone and The Black Phone 2 both tell a really good, compelling story in 2 chapters that's now fully complete. So, if it was up to me, there just shouldn't be any more of the sequels. But again, overall, I think that The Black Phone 2 is a really great sequel and a great follow-up. And if you like the original, then you should really like this one. Especially that, also if you're a horror fan, then as I said, this movie is a much more of a full horror than the thriller, which the first The Black Phone came off as to me. So, folks, thank you for checking out this review. Press the like button. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you then. Bye.